Guys, it's Cindy Leach, your polymer clay tutor, and we had a question in regards to making memorial beads or flower petal beads that I thought would be easiest to answer you in video today. Now here's the question. She said, "Hi Cindy, my sister and I are trying to work on beads. We're trying to put memorial flower bits into primo translucent clay as I thought you suggested, but I don't think they look like yours. The clay turned out gray and it's hard to see the flowers, and when I cut the clay, heart-shaped, the flower bits stick out. And when poking back in or taking out and trying to reshape, the bead looks very amateur. Any solutions to that? Or do I need to stick with a ball shape? We practiced with Kato white clay. My sister just had that on hand before we went shopping, and it seems like a much harder clay than primo after baked. Harder to work with too, but the results are better. And actually, a couple of our primo beads broke after baked when we tried to clean out the hole. Also, I don't remember the video saying how long to bake the beads. I remember 265, but I can't find the length of time to bake." Now that's a lot of questions, but I think I should be able to answer them quite clearly for you. Now in regards to what she was referring to, it was a tutorial in volume 3-2 called the flower petal inclusion beads. And in that tutorial I used translucent primo clay and added flower bits to it. And I've got some dried flower petals here that actually came from a memorial for Doug's dad, who died earlier this spring, and I'm going to be making some flower petals with it, so this is a perfect time to show this. Now in that tutorial I had fairly large bits of flower petals. Now if she's trying to use a cookie cutter to cut out the hearts, I can see why she's running into problems. Here, I'll cut one out here. Now this here, hopefully the camera can pick it up. If you're using larger flower petals in your clay, you are going to have pieces stick out if you're using a cutter. In the tutorial I just made round beads, so I didn't have that kind of issue. What you're going to need to do then, if you still want to go with this heart shape or any cutout shape, is you're going to need to make sure that your flower petals are much smaller. In a tutorial that I did later on in my series, in volume 34-1, rose petal beads, I show you how to take your rose petals and grind them up in a coffee grinder so that they're much finer. And you'll see I've got a sample here, and if I cut this clay out with the cutter, because the pieces are much smaller, I don't run into that issue at all with the pieces hanging off the edge. So that is a better solution for you to if you're wanting to cut them out. Another thing is that she mentioned that the clay looked quite gray, and that is definitely true. If you're using some of the darker flower petals into a translucent clay, it will give kind of a grayish look. These flowers were originally a red, but when they dry they get almost black, purple color. So what I did in the next tutorial, the rose petal tutorial, is I noticed that some people didn't like that look as much, and so I boosted up the color by adding some pearl, some ecru to the translucent, as well as a color that blended or matched with the flower petals. And in this case it was an alizarin crimson that I added to the clay, and you can see that it gives a very rich color, much different than the gray color. So if you prefer that, that would be the way to go on that. Now as far as the baking issues, the reason why the clay was breaking is that you weren't properly curing your beads, and that can happen by two things: the temperature and the length of time. Now what you need to do is make sure to use an oven thermometer in your oven, so that you're making sure to hold the temperature for the full amount of time. Sometimes these toaster ovens and things won't hold the temperature very long, so you need to, or properly, and most ovens are actually incorrect. So the oven thermometer will let you know if your oven temperature is correct. For primo clay, that is between 265 and 275. You can go a tiny bit higher, but I wouldn't go lower than 265, and you want to hold it in that range. I like to bake for 1 full hour. That will make up for any kind of cooling down or heating up that might happen during the baking process. It doesn't matter what thickness is it, I always like to bake at 1 full hour. So I think that should answer all of your questions. Hopefully that did a good job for you. If anyone out there has any questions of their own that they would like me to address, I would love to do that, and you can make sure to leave your comments below. And if this video was helpful for you and you really enjoyed it, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and that will help us greatly. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you in another video in another time. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.